Hello everybody, Prepper003 here today with a controversial video that I know a lot of you guys were really into and a lot of people heavily invest into this type of concept and theory, and that is going to be the Greyman. Now right now this is a huge topic to cover, so it's going to be actually broken down into a couple of different videos just to kind of make it to where it's a lot easier to explain for you guys, and it's also not such a long drawn out video. Now, the first one is going to be the practical versus the tactical aspect of it. Now, what I mean by tactical. Now, a lot of people like to think that if an SHTF scenario might happen, that they're going to go out, throw on their kit, their camis, and everything, just like Bob here, and go out and start patrolling the streets. And they're going to be the local town sheepdog, if you will. Now, that might not be the best scenario or the best use of your resources and time. So I'm going to get into what is the Greyman. What is the concept of it? The Greyman is basically, short, sweet, and simple, is somebody who blends into his surroundings very easily and doesn't stand out. So that comes into the everyday usage of the Greyman. How does that process to you? Well, first off, don't come out as the huge prepper. Like, for example, driving around in your bug out vehicle 24/7 with ammo cans strapped to the side of it and just the whole 9 yards. Have just a basic low-key vehicle. Don't have a whole bunch of types of stickers and everything on the front and back of it. And try to dress a little bit more low-key, more bland, something similar to this right here, where there's not a lot of logos. Like, you don't have me wearing a Smith & Wesson hat, or for another example, like having a Kimber t-shirt on, a pair of 511 tactical pants, and everything else. So just kind of dress very casual, very another way kind of that I look at it is dress very worn, but don't dress up, dress kind of down, if you will. Like, for example, with some of the jewelry or accessories that you might have on you, try to dress a little bit down on that too. So just some of the scenarios, just because even if it's just a sports jersey, that can still draw attention to you by other people. Like maybe they might be a Hawks fan or something like that. Just that kind of thing. So just very bland, nothing too fancy, nothing too over the top, nothing too solo to where you're having people look at you because you kind of look like a vagrant. Just that kind of a thing. Now, the next thing is going to be now that we're kind of done over the basic examples of what the Greyman theory is, now they're going to go into the aspect of the Greyman in an SHTF scenario. Now, the aspect of that is going to be, you're not going to want to be someone that's going to stick out like a sore thumb, which is going to be very hard because it's not going to be like you're trying to blend into a huge crowd. You're actually trying to blend into pretty much being a ghost. You're trying to blend into your surroundings rather than trying to blend in with other people. So that's where it comes into being a little bit more difficult depending on the situation that you're in. So maybe like, for example, if you're out in the woods, maybe camis might be something that you might be wanting to have, something a little bit more suede as compared to when you're in the city. So that's where it's kind of hard to debate on the whole Greyman theory, is because there's a lot of different gray areas and there's a lot of different variables into it as well. Now I'm going to go on to, just because I got kind of the situation and the location out of the way for you, just that you have to leave that up to you and what your situation is and what's going on with your preps, and to move that into it is going to be the full tactical aspect of it. And as I mentioned earlier, depending on the situation, running out and being the full tactical guy, running out with your AR-15, full-on loadout and everything else, camis, starting patrolling the streets, isn't always going to be the best option. Sure, you might have the best intentions, but sometimes it might be better to be the Greyman, because all it takes is one shot to put you down, and now you have increased the threat of everyone in your neighborhood by allowing the enemy that has attacked you to get your gear, your weaponry, and are now using that against maybe your family, the people in your town, your neighborhood, what have you. So that's why it might not be the best thing to be running around in a full kit ready to go, because it could happen, especially if you're not fully situationally aware of your surroundings, and that's where that situation location really comes into play. Now, for example, if you're working on as a security detail for a large community, maybe if you have those type of, you have backup, you have reserves, so if something does happen, you have communications with your group, maybe having a full kit is going to be useful. It just depends on that situation, that location. That's why it kind of hinders people when it comes to the full tactical. Now, on the flip side, what I see a lot of people comment, and this is mainly the lone wolf preppers, if you will, or the ghosts, as some people I've heard call themselves, is that they say that all you need is either a pistol or all you need is a .22 rifle and a box of ammunition for it, and that's it. You don't need to have a rifle, you don't need to have a loadout kit or any of that, because you're never going to use it. Like, that goes back to that situation location. How do you know that you're never going to use that? And as preppers, we try to prep for as many scenarios as possible to make it to get our best chance of survival out of that outcome. Like, for example, something might happen to where it's not a downright SHTF scenario might be happening, but there might be discriminatory things that can be happening. Like, for example, what's been going on in South Africa with the farmers, to where the people are storming the farmers' ranches and everything and murdering the families. At that point, being the Greyman isn't going to help, because they know that you're living in your ranch. You can be as low key as you want to, but they still know that you have a ranch and you have farmland. That's why maybe having a full kit is going to be useful to you. So it comes down to that. So there's a flip side to each one on that. So it's, as a prepper, you have to kind of gauge on how you're going to respond to your scenario and how you want to prep to your scenario. The best thing is to, as a prepper, we're not sitting here stuck on just one tunnel vision, pretty much onto one type of scenario. We can prep and we can gauge our preps on a multitude of different things and try to cover as much as we can by rounding out our preps. So the lone wolf is going to be really hindered with that. And the other thing with the Greyman theory is this is going on to the second part, is that you are going to be hindered in your firepower capability if something does happen. For example, this guy right here, if a conflict does break out, he has a chance of being able to stay in the fight longer than, say, for example, as I'm sitting here with a kind of like a Greyman loader, where I have my pistol here, then I have 2 pistol mags, I have my rifle, 1 rifle mag, and a IFAK here. So I won't be able to stay into the fight as long as this guy will. Pretty much the way that I'm going to have to fight is going to be completely different than the way this guy here is going to be able to fight if a conflict does break out. The best thing that I can try to do is to break contact and leave the area. And that's probably what this guy's going to want to do, but he's going to have a higher chance of being able to do that because he has the ability of sending more rounds downrange than I do, as with, for example, being able to carry something like this right here, which is just a AR pistol. So it comes down to what you want to do and how you're going to think about it. But you just have to realize that there's limitations to both sides when it comes to the Greyman theory. And the last part about it is going to be conflict, as I've already started mentioning. I know a lot of people think that, and they have it in their head, that they're just going to go out to the woods and they're going to avoid all types of conflict. It might not always happen that way. You're not always going to be able to just avoid every single conflict that comes your way. And right now, I don't know about your situation. Sure, you might be able to set up a complete security system that's completely infallible, it has no holes in it, and it can last 20 years without breaking down or anything like that. And it's going to be able to survive every single type of weather phenomenon that comes its way. So I don't know what you're capable of, but I prefer to lean towards the side of caution rather than the side of pretty much arrogance, if you will. I know that there's stuff that I'm not going to be able to prepare for, and that I'm going to have to pretty much try to adapt to that situation as it comes in. So that's why I try to prep and round out my preps and try not to dig into the Greyman theory. Now, the Greyman theory is something that's good to practice and good to use on an everyday basis, as I said earlier. Being the everyday Greyman and not drawing attention to yourself is very good. The bad thing is what I see a lot of people doing is whenever they delve into it and they think that it is something that they need to completely live by, they don't need to prep or anything, they just need to blend in. That's it. And you see this happening. I've seen some people even mention it in some of the comments of my other videos, is that you don't need to prep all this stockpiles of food and water. All you need to do is be able to live off the land. Depending on the situation, as I said earlier, that might not be the best of case. There's stuff that can happen to where living off land is not going to work. So that's pretty much why I want to kind of cut it off. I don't want this to go on for too long. I feel like I've hit the first couple of points there for the practical aspect of the Greyman, just blending in, not being too overly noticeable, and some of the drawbacks from doing that, your lack of firepower, and sometimes maybe the lack of a group, as with the lone wolf aspect. Then it comes on to the full tactical aspect of wanting to go and patrol your neighborhoods and wanting to run around kind of like a Rambo type deal in full kit. That can be a threat to, it can make you a target, it can make you a huge threat to, even though you might be wanting to protect people, it can be more of a threat to those people you're trying to protect because you're leaving yourself vulnerable and open if you are not trained enough, you don't have people to back you up. So I want to hear what you guys think, especially on the lone wolf aspect of it, down in the comments below. I know a lot of people consider themselves to be a lone wolf prepper. I'm not. I try to do my best to work with the community and my family and with some people that I've started to work with. So I really appreciate what they've done for me and how they've helped me grow as a prepper. So I just want to hear what you guys think and what you guys are really kind of gauging as a Greyman theory and the difference between a practical Greyman and a full tactical kind of thing like right here. So I really appreciate you guys watching. Have a great